What is up, YouTube? This is Anashi with yet another deck profile video. This time I will be giving you an update on the brown deck, the Earth deck. Some of you may recall that this was originally my Naturius C deck, but unfortunately I've decided to dismantle that deck as it really wasn't doing what I was wanting it to do. I couldn't get it to operate under a way that made me really happy. So I've taken it apart and replaced it with my Rock deck. So now my Rock deck is my Earth deck. Ironic. But I made some adjustments thanks to some new cards that just came out in the latest set, so let's see where this goes. Starting off with the low levels, we have 2 Doki Doki and 2 Block Golem. Doki Doki's effect says you can discard a rock from your hand to special summon a rock from your deck at the same level, but this card's effect can only be used once per turn. So, even though I only run 2, if I did decide to run a third, I could drop 1 Doki Doki to summon another Doki Doki, overlay both of them into a Gachi Gachi. But more often than not, I just use him to get on my level 4 targets or even my level 8 targets. You'll see that in a bit. Then we get to the 2 Block Golem. We all know what this card does. Tributed, special summon a pair of level 4 lower rocks from your graveyard, but their effects on the field cannot be activated. You can only do this if the entire deck is pure Earth, which is exactly what it is. Okay, if the graveyard is pure Earth, but the deck is pure Earth, so that's completely not even a problem. Then we get to the 4-star rocks, of which there are quite a few. Starting right off, we have 3 Fossil Dyna Pachycephalo, pretty much a standard in any rock deck. Neither player special summons, you flip it, all special summon monsters are destroyed. But there's a way to actually make your monsters invulnerable to this, in this very deck, and you'll see that in a bit too. 1 Gigantes, I originally ran 2, but 1 just turned out to be better. Banish a rock out of your banish an earth out of your grave, special summon this from your hand. If it gets killed in battle, you can destroy all spell traps on the field. This deck actually doesn't rely on continuous spell traps anywhere near as much as it used to anymore, so this card becomes a lot more playable even at just 1. 2 Guardian, tribute it to negate a monster effect. 3 Overload, tribute it to negate a summon. 1 Sandman, tribute it to negate a trap. I'm starting to see a couple of specific decks running unusual non-counter trap cards. So even at 1, this card's useful. And 3 Walls. Spell cards are still very powerful, so obviously the most powerful things to look for are the spell cards and the summons. And 1 Tackle Crusader. I decided to keep this thing at 1. Its effect is awesome. If it's sent to the graveyard by any means, you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls, turn it face down, or you can bounce a face-up spell trap your opponent controls to the hand. More often than not, these days, I use the first effect over the second effect. But even at 1, it's great because I have a way to loop it. You'll see. And then into the big monsters, we have triple Block Dragon and single Gaia Plate. Block Dragon is honestly my favorite rock in this entire deck. You banish 3 rocks from your hand or, 3 Earths from your hand or grave total to special summon it from your hand or grave. If it goes from the field to the grave, you can, well, add 8 stars worth of rock monsters, no more than 3, from your deck to your hand. So, in this instance, you could drop, or if this goes to the graveyard, you could add 2 Doki Doki and a level 4, 2 Block Golem and a Doki Doki, a pair of 4s, a single level 8, like another Block Dragon, or Gaia Plate. But its other effect is as long as it's face up on the field, rocks can't be destroyed by anything except battle. That's what I was talking about earlier. And Gaia Plate's effect is that you can special summon it from your hand by banishing 2 rocks from your grave. And you have to banish a rock out of your grave once per your standby phase to keep him on the field, or else he just sends himself to the grave. But anything he battles is halved, so that makes this a valuable card, especially if you have it on the field at the same time as Block Dragon, which is easy to set up if you use Doki Doki on the field to send Block Dragon to the grave, special summon Gaia Plate, and if you have spare rocks, you can special summon Block Dragon right back out of the grave. It's a great little combo. Honestly, I just wish there was a decent rank 8 Xyz monster I could put in this deck of the Earth variety, but I really am not a huge fan of the ones that they have right now. But enough about theoretical extra deck, let's go into the main deck's spell cards. Starting with Varial from a Different Dimension, this is still in here. Target up to 3 banished monsters returned to the grave. Obviously that has great play in this deck. Triple Diamond Core searches out any Koa'ki Meiru monster, and then if you can banish it out of the graveyard to make your Koa'ki Meirus indestructible by pretty much any means for the turn. 2, Pot of Acquisitiveness. I've been going back and forth between 2 or 3, but 2 seems fine. You can return 3 banished monsters, doesn't matter whose, into the deck, then draw a single card. You can only play 1 a turn, but it's a quick play spell. So you could even play this during your opponent's turn to help disrupt some of their plays if, for whatever reason, they have cards that are banished that they need to keep banished, or for whatever else. This allows me to loop all the rocks back into my deck, and then keep going. I can only do the loop so many times, but it's fine because I can still make it work. Still running the pair of 7th one. I mean, getting Giant Red Hand for free is fun. And yeah, its effect is mandatory, but you know what? That's fine, because that means that they have to blow an effect just to get rid of his full negation. And in all honesty, it's worth it to get rid of that much resource. And Triple Ties of the Brethren. We've seen this card enough to know what it does. Pay 2 grand, target a level 4 or lower monster, special summon 2 more of the same type, attribute, and level, but all 3 having different names from the deck. You also don't get a battle phase this turn, but you use Doki Doki, drop 1 level 4 to get another level 4, and then play Ties on that new level 4. You have amazing first turn setup. And then we go down into the narrowly focused trap cards. Triple Call the Haunted, bring back a monster from grave. I more often than not just use to give back those Koa'ki Meirus that I've used up so that I can keep my opponent from doing anything. Single Release from Stone. Originally I wanted to put this card at 2, but I just don't have the room. And on top of that, 1 actually is fine, because as you saw, I just put my stuff back in my deck most of the time now, so who cares? Brings back a banished rock to the field. Triple Rock Bombardment. I wanted to run Foolish Burial over this, but this card is just much more useful. In addition to dropping a rock type from the deck to the grave, it lets me do 500 damage. Now we're going to go ahead and go into the side deck. Starting off with the 3rd Doki Doki, the 3rd Lock Golem, Guardian, Sandman, Crusader, Double Dark Hole, Double MST, Pot of Acquisitiveness, Bottomless, Compulse, Mirror Force, Torrential, and Vanities. And then we wrap it up with the extra deck, which is still all Xyz, but with a few new additions. Gachi Gachi Guntetsu at 1. In the event that I ever use Block Golem to bring back both Doki Dokis, I have a play. But if I ever put the 3rd Doki Doki in there, I have a way to pull out Gachi. 1 Giant Soldier of Steel and 1 Soul of Silver Mountain still. I don't see much play with these guys, but they're there if I decide to go into them. I mean, this one is unaffected by other monster effects, and during other player's turn you detach a material to give them 1,000 points of defense and make you immune to effect damage for the rest of the turn. This one locks the back row, and if it manages to kill something in battle, then, you know, you get to bring back an earth monster from your grave in defense. They're not bad cards, I just don't play them often. Yeah, Fairy King Alvredich. A lot of people are probably confused about why this card's in here if it's not a rock. Well, that's because this deck's not just a rock deck anymore, it's an earth deck. The rock deck is just the primary part. But now that I'm being a bit more flexible with the extra deck on this, it opens me to a lot of new possibilities. Fairy King Alvredich lets me detach a material to boost all, or reduce all non-earths by 500 attack and defense. That makes all my monsters just that much stronger. Still running the Gemini Pearl, though. Not a big deal, really. And the double Diamond Crab King, because it's just funny. Attach material, swap its 0 attack and 3,000 defense, and after it attacks, it switches to defense. The risk is that if it has no materials, then it's attacked, it goes to attack mode. It's kind of like Big Shield Gardena, except slightly better. Then we have the number 55 Go 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 Goliath. I don't summon this that often either, but what I do, I actually use it to get back my Gigantes and set up a second Xyz summon play. Because its effect lets you detach a material to target a level 4 Earth Rock in the grave and add it to your hand. But you can only use its effect once per turn, since I only run 1, who cares? And all monsters you control gain 800 defense. Not a big deal, really. It's just a neat little bonus, I guess. Then, of course, we've got the Giant Hands, who double detach to target an effect monster. and negate its effects, prevent it from changing battle position, but only when a monster effect is activated on the opponent's side. Which is, a little bad, but it makes your opponent have to attack first and then use their effects later when they may have needed it at that moment. And of course, like I said, the giant red hand, it attaches a material to negate everything on the field, but it's a mandatory activation. It's kind of like Doom Caliber Knights, except it negates an entire field for a turn. Like I said before, it's not inherently bad, it's just not really as good as I was hoping it would be. And that is the deck. I love the way that this deck has actually come out. It ended up being transferred to the brown sleeves because the orange sleeves were now occupied by the dinosaur deck, which I am so glad I ended up working out. And in all honesty, I'm just glad I was able to keep it. I hate that the Naturia Seas didn't work out the way I wanted them to, but you know what? Not every deck idea anyone has is going to work out forever. The deck was slowing down unbelievably, and no amount of tech ideas that I had could help it keep up anymore. So I decided to retire it. Whether the retirement's temporary or permanent is completely up to how the game progresses. But in the meantime, the Rock deck is a welcome addition into the brown sleeves in its place. And if anybody has any ideas on how to make this deck better, feel free to drop me a suggestion. In the meantime, this has been Nanashi, signing out.